Alright, Strict fams, we're gonna get ready to cook and prepare this Dinuguan for Mrs. Strict to try. Not only is this gonna be the first time she's trying Dinuguan, but this is also gonna be my first time trying to make Dinuguan myself. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we have to do is prepare the vegetables. We're gonna start off with cutting onions. We're just gonna go ahead and cut it in half because we need about a half of an onion that we're gonna saute to start off the Dinuguan. Yeah, I've actually never made any Filipino food on my own, so this is gonna be interesting. My grandma would always cook some Filipino food, but anytime I try to cook something in the kitchen, she would always take over because she basically saw me struggling. So this will be the first time I'll be trying to cook one of these dishes. So let me chop up these onions. So once you cut your half of your onion, you're gonna go ahead and place it into the bowl that's already starting to heat up. I added 3 tablespoons of cooking oil. So now I'm gonna add the onion so it can go ahead and saute while we get ready to cut our next vegetable, which is the garlic. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and add the onions to saute. So we're gonna add that into our cooking pot. Okay, so next up is the garlic. You need 6 cloves of garlic to be minced to saute with our Dinuguan. All right, so I've seen this. You might not be able to see me on camera, but I've seen this where they just smash it.
Bruh.
All right, that didn't work very well. It got 2 smashed, so I'm just gonna cut them quickly so we can add them to our pot. All right, so we got our 6 cloves of garlic minced or cut up. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to our pot that is sauteing the onion. Go ahead and put our garlic with our onions to saute. So here we go. We got our onions and our garlic sauteing, getting prepared to bring in the pork meat. So now that we've added our onions and our garlic to saute, we're gonna hurry up and put in our pork shoulder, which is the main ingredient of our Dinuguan. So we got about 3 pounds here. We only need about 2.5 pounds or 2 pounds of pork. So I'm just gonna estimate, since we don't have a scale, how much 2 pounds of this pork meat would be. So this seems about 1 pound here. Cut this off. And as of now, we don't have to add any tenderizing or any spices to the pork belly, and this knife isn't working very good for this. So let's bring out the Big Daddy Fancy Cutco knife. So now we gotta cube the pork. I don't know why I chose Dinuguan. This is a lot tougher than I thought it was gonna be. Maybe I'm just complaining. But it is one of my favorite dishes. I think we are ready to go ahead and add this pork to our onions and garlic. So we're gonna go ahead and add this to the garlic and the onions, and it's gonna take about 3 to 5 minutes. We're gonna add 3 cups of water to our bowl of our half of onion, our 6 cloves of garlic, and then we're gonna go ahead and add our 2 pounds of pork. With 3 cups of water, we're gonna go ahead and let it boil for 3 to 5 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and add this to the pot. I think I mentioned previously that you're gonna add water to this, but actually you're gonna go ahead and saute the pork belly. At least this is what my recipe says. You're gonna go ahead and saute the pork belly or the pork shoulder cubes with the onions and garlic for 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll add the water, and then we'll bring all of this to a boil. So I'm gonna saute this for 3 to 5 minutes. And then we'll go ahead and add our 3 cups of water to this afterwards. We're gonna go ahead and add the 2 cups of water to our pot. And then we're gonna let it boil. Okay, so as we get our pork shoulder with the onions and garlic to boil, I'm gonna go ahead and prepare the next 2 ingredients that we'll add. So once it comes to a boil, you're gonna add 3/4 a cup of vinegar. So we got the Datu Puti vinegar. I used to remember my grandma using this vinegar, so I'm assuming it's the good stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and use this vinegar, so 3 to 4 cups. And then you're gonna use 3 bay leaves. I did not get this from Seafood City. This was already in our kitchen. It's an organic bay leaves, but it says 3 dry bay leaves. I feel like this will do the job. We'll go ahead and add the vinegar. Oh snap. The last ingredient that we're gonna add before we let it simmer for an hour is the chicken cube. You can use chicken or pork cube. They both taste kind of similar, so in this case we're gonna use chicken cube. So we're just gonna add 1 chicken cube to the pot, and then we will go ahead and cover it and let it simmer for about an hour. Pork shoulder is starting to boil, so we're gonna go ahead and add our 3/4 cup of white vinegar to our mix here. So we'll go ahead and add that. Okay, and then we're gonna add our 3 bay leaves. We're gonna bring this back to a boil. I'm gonna mix it in. And then we're gonna bring this back to a boil. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. Okay, so we're gonna mix this in, and then we're gonna bring this back to a boil. And then we will add our final ingredients before we let it sit for an hour. Our pot is back to a boil, so we're just gonna add the last ingredient before we let this sit for an hour, which is the chicken cube. Add it in there, I'll stir it a little bit, and then we're gonna cover the pot and we're gonna let it sit for an hour. So I'm gonna let it sit between low and medium, and I'm gonna cover this for about an hour. So go from an hour from here, and we'll check back in on the Dinuguan. So I just got back from playing 2K, balling on some people online. We got about 5 minutes left of allowing the pork shoulder to simmer. We're gonna go ahead and finish the last part of the Dinuguan. Okay, so all we have to add now is the peppers. They had a specific name. I forgot what it was called, but I had to ask somebody from Seafood City, and they kind of explained to me which ones to use. So we're gonna add 4 of these. Okay, so I'm just gonna take them out of the pack. They're already pre-packaged. Take 4 of them out. It's basically to add some flavor to the stew. And then the main ingredients, we're gonna add 1.5 cups, or actually a 1 3/4 cups of the pork blood. This is the part that kind of grosses people out. So we're gonna add this, and we'll have our last 15 minutes to just kind of stir it all together. And then before we serve it, we'll add a little bit of sugar. I think it's 1 tablespoon of sugar, and then salt and pepper just to season it to our liking. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and open this up. At Seafood City, they have pre-packaged pork blood liquid. Pull the tab. We already, we already got some blood splatter. I'll clean it up before Mrs. Strick comes back in the kitchen, because she might not like this very much. It doesn't really have that much of a smell to it. Let's go ahead and pour it. I'm doing it for the video, or else I would pour this over the sink, but we're gonna do it right here. All right, so we got our 1 1/4 of pork blood, which we'll add once the timer goes off. And then I'm gonna go ahead and get our 4 chilies ready to add to our pot. So I'll switch to the other camera, and then you guys will see me add the last 2 ingredients. Then we're just gonna stir it all together for about 15 minutes, stir for every 3 minutes or so, and then it should be basically ready to go. And there's the timer. Here is our pot after an hour of simmering. So we're ready to add the last couple of ingredients. So here's our chili peppers. I'm gonna add, so our 3 chili peppers. And then we have our 1 1/4 cup of pork blood. So we're just gonna add that to the mix here. And as you can see, I mean, it literally is blood as our chili pepper is turning red. And this is what gives Dinuguan the famous name of chocolate meat, because it starts to turn black, as you guys can see here. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and mix this. We're gonna let this cook with the pork blood for about 15 minutes, but it's already starting to look good. It smells good. It actually smells like my grandma's recipe of Dinuguan, so the flavor should be there. So we're gonna go ahead and let it sit for its 15 minutes, and then we will check back with you guys. We finished the 15 minutes of mixing the pork blood with the chili peppers. The last thing for the ingredient was to add a tablespoon of sugar, add pepper and salt to taste. We'll add a little bit more salt, and I think we're ready to go. So that is Mr. Strick's take on cooking Dinuguan, and here is the finished product. It's still boiling a little bit. Once it settles, it doesn't look as runny. So some of you guys may have cooked this before or seen it before, and it's usually not this watery, but once I turn it off, I'm just gonna mix it a little bit since I added sugar and salt. But once I turn it off, it should be a lot less liquidy and a lot more pasty looking. There it is. That was my recipe to make Dinuguan. Hope you guys enjoy.